Good morning everyone. In this video I'm going to analyze the live price action for EU and DXY to see what day trading opportunities there may be. You're going to see my strategy and my analysis, so if you're interested in those then please stick around. So starting on the daily chart, we have EU at the top here and DXY at the bottom. What do we see on the daily chart? So ending the previous week on the Thursday, Friday, you can see EU closed out with massive bearish engulfing candles after we mitigated this daily order block POI up here in the premium. Inversely, obviously DXY had the same, finished with two bullish engulfing candles closing above these highs here, which is buy side liquidity of course, whereas EU did not close below these lows, right? So there's some divergence at those levels there, which may be indicating some EU strength at this low, at this discount, but we'll see that more on the lower time frames. So other than that, on the daily, we can just see we've pulled back down to these areas. There's sell side liquidity available below here. We have our previous weekly lows and weekly highs and previous daily lows and daily highs. On EU, previous weekly and daily low are at this level. We haven't quite swept those yet, but of course it will look clear on the lower time frame. Same with EU, it's just above here. So both of those are still intact, so nothing to mention there. So let's go down to the 4 hour and see what that looks like. Here on the 4 hour, we have this possible bearish leg here on the 4 hour where we've got this lower low, lower high relative to this high, and now lower low down here. So if we look at this leg, we are now in a discount, very much in the extreme discount because we're right at the bottom of this leg, right? We pulled back down to a previous 4 hour POI, which we are currently being held by. This is where the SMC divergence is being created. So we have this higher low here, whereas on DXY we have this higher high relative to this high. So that shows possible EU strength from this level, right? To pull back to wherever a premium, there's POIs here and a POI up here. So we have these imbalances that may draw price, at least on the 4 hour. So as you can see, previous daily low and previous weekly low is still intact. Same on DXY, you can see that price has not spiked up into these levels just yet. We actually have SMC from an even further level now, from here to here, but for me I didn't mark that out because it's not really relevant because it still exists at this point anyway. So yeah, main takeaways from the 4 hour is we're in discount of the 4 hour leg, we're still being held by the POI, we have SMC divergence which may indicate a bullish EU, and we have sell side liquidity obviously resting below these lows, and we have premium POIs that price may be attracted to. So let's go to the hourly and see what that shows. So things get a bit more interesting here on the hourly. So let's take our time and discuss this. Of course, these are the same 4 hour and 1 hour POIs that we're being held by. This is that SMC divergence. As you can see, on Friday into Monday, we did not make a lower low here. Price held and had this bullish move, and on DXY it also failed to make a higher high and pull back a bit lower. Now that doesn't mean price is reversing, but it might be an early signal because we had this bullish internal break. You can see we've broken above these highs. That'll be clearer on the 15-minute. We've broken above these highs, and you may be able to interpret it as a 1 hour break of structure because that is technically a 1 hour high, and we failed to make a lower low, so it's a weak high. We broke higher than that. We still have this larger leg here. We still have even from this high to this low, but price may now be showing that strength, right? Because we have this 1 hour order block. So this is just possible price action. We have this 1 hour order block. Price has spiked into it and rejected it. So we got to see how price moves from this area now, because if it then goes on to make a new higher high, it will look like we have now 1 hour change of structure, at least internally, right? So we could be having that internal pullback to this area here, this confluence at the equilibrium, but of course also we have imbalances above there in the premium to attract price. So while we're in this discount, we may show that reverse, that internal price action that's giving us the intent that price wants to pull back to a more premium from this discount, from these lows. We can see the same thing happening over here on DXY. Of course, last week we took out buy side liquidity from previous highs. Now we are also being held at this area. Price has come into its 1 hour POI as well, of course, here. and so far we're being held. So we're at an important area. Price may need to come down and sweep this sell side liquidity, but at the moment the POI is holding, so we're going to need to see what the lower time frames look like. It would be great to get that sponsorship of the buy side liquidity here on DXY and possibly the sell side liquidity from these previous weekly lows on EU as well. That would give us great sponsorship to pull back further to a POI more in a premium and a discount on DXY. So let's go down to the M15 and see what opportunities we may have for today. So as I mentioned, the structure I was talking about, the internal break to the upside, you can see we had this price action here. We refused to break that low, had a bullish reaction. Now we've had a break of structure on the M15 here. You can see we're kind of correctively pulling back here. We've come down to this area, this 1 hour POI. If it comes down to this M15 order block here, it'd be interesting to see if it holds rather than sweeps. But I would imagine it would go for the sell side liquidity. So I wouldn't set my order there unless I had a big stop, because that would be quite risky. It definitely looks like an area to sweep. So I wouldn't put my stop loss, right below the order block at all. But in any case, we have some intention being showed on the M15 at least already, that we may be pulling back to a premium. The same thing, of course, is happening here on DXY. You can see we broke this low, broke down here, and we had this sort of corrective pullback to this M15 fair value gap, which has now been filled and price is rejecting it. Already this morning, we had some SMC divergence, which was signaling a weak EU. This just in a lower time frame, obviously. We swept the buy side liquidity from Asia and then again from London's highs. I'll show you on the M5 the false move we had, but you can see that gave a big bearish pullback. So that move was valid, but didn't get any entry into that. We are of course in a discount, so those moves are kind of more riskier, but it still looked valid from a sell side buy side liquidity sweep point of view. So price swept buy side liquidity and was seeking sell side liquidity, right? So we've ended up down here in this POI and imbalance. So for me, this is quite an interesting area. So what I would need to see from price here is, I wouldn't want to continue selling down into this because now we've mitigated a higher time frame POI. So that's a major negative for me to say sell from this area to continue shorts, though it may happen to come for this sell side liquidity below here. Preferably what I would want is price to form some sort of structure here, maybe sweep its low again and then break above it. So then we can aim to move up into this premium. So how that would look is, if we left behind an order block here on the lower time frame, after sweeping these lows here, we would have that sell side liquidity swept, price breaking above, showing some intention, maybe even above these highs. But either way, price having a bullish momentum, breaking above the highs, giving us that breaker structure above here, and then a corrective pullback to our M15 or M5 order block, and then we can set our orders to go long above that area. We'd have our stop below, and we just aim for previous high, making new highs up to the premium. Whichever highs you want to aim for the buy side liquidity of, that's how my order would look. So let's just go for the easy target there. That's what I would be looking for. Of course, this would look great from down here as well. So if price was to do this, taking out these previous weekly, previous daily lows, sweeping those lows, this would look really good. Same thing from down here. And we can target wherever we need to. So after taking this major sell side liquidity, where the structure is, we sweep the low of these previous weekly and previous daily lows, have that bullish momentum to take out the structure internally and pull back and go long. For shorts, I would be looking for shorts up into this area. I'd want price to pull back to these POIs, create some structure, sweep the high, break down, and then we can look to continue the trend. Of course, we have more POIs above here, so that's why we're waiting for this POI to hold, shift structure, and give us an entry. right? Because that would make it more high probability. I wouldn't want to set my order just at the top here because price could always be reaching for more of a premium POI. So this is how my order would look. I'd say above the high here, and then just aim for previous low or a new low, wherever that I would want to go for. Now, of course, that could happen above here as well when you get that buy side liquidity sweep, right, from these previous daily highs. And it could look like that as well. So both of those would be valid. Yeah, so price is at an interesting place right now. Let's go to the 5 minute. We can see how that liquidity was swept from the previous London high and Asia. So we had this false move. We had Asia swept by London, which is a great move. We broke down internally, making that 5 minute breaker structure and pulled back. Now I would have set my order here. However, we had this false breakout on DXY. So DXY swept this previous high, did not close above it. So when it came down, we can see that that made EU a bit more aggressive and sweep the highs again. That was the only signal I got that this area wasn't safe, because usually my stop loss would be right above it. So instead it came, swept it again, and broke down quite aggressively. Now there may be entries here to come in, say from this fair value gap above this high here. You can put your stop loss and you could target the low again for 3%, and that would be valid because we have had this breaker structure here on DXY now. However, we have these 1 hour POIs and price does look like it may have the intention to pull back further and turn bullish. So I would rather just avoid that negative. Personally, I don't see the entry I want here, so I'm going to avoid that. So I hope that was clear. I hope you gained value from that. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.